It's another episode of that 1990 Vogue SE, the left-hand drive one, do you remember? Enjoy it. Before we get in, check you're subscribed if you think you are. If you're not subscribed, please consider it. Helps the old algorithms. Comments down below, thumbs up, thumbs down below. The subscribe button is down below as well, as is the little dingly bell thing that notifies you of new content. Consider all of those options. Helps the old algorithms. If you fancy contacting me, and bear in mind there's only one of me, it takes me a little while to get back to you, but I always do, churchhouseclassics, and that's all one word, @gmail.com. And if you fancy supporting the channel, someone's going to pay for this nonsense, or just buying me a pint, then please use the PayPal me link that's scrolling here. If you want me specifically to buy myself a pint, then say in your message, Richard, get yourself a pint, old chap. Cut the underlay out because it was dripping wet and it wasn't drying out anytime soon, so I'll get that in the container and that can dry out in there. Now, it is true you can never get a rot-free one of these. It's just the way they are, I'm afraid. What I really need is a brush. Buzzle! I want to brush it, and then if there's anything worth saving in there, I shall save it. Otherwise, it's all going to get vacuumed out. There's a lot of sand and shit in here. Lots. Right, there goes the floor. It's all sand. All dust. It's almost like this has got wet in here, isn't it? And it has got wet, but this seam up here all looks really good order. Unusually, it's that seam down there, and that is kind of where it's rotted from the inside to the outside, I think, and then moisture, that's the ground down there, unfortunately. So we need a small bit of welding in here, but I don't think it's going to be anywhere near the level we're used to. So I can see how much of this falls out, then it could just end up being, I end up replacing just that piece of the floor. The rest of it over here is all looking very solid. So it's not horrific. I'm just a little bit disappointed because I was rather hoping that this one was going to be, do you know what, we're not getting the welder out on this one. Well, it's actually nowhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be. So the obvious hole there, which is not horrific. Up here, water's just got in between the joint there, so I reckon if I give that a damn good soaking with some rust prevention material, that's going to be okay. That seam will be okay. And then the seam that goes up here, wherever I go with it, there is rusty steel underneath it, but surface rusty steel. And again, it goes down to proving they put the seam sealer on before the paint. I don't think it's horrific being attacked by the carpet. So realistically, we've just got a patch that needs to go in here. I'll see how bad that gets up there, because while I'm doing that, I might as well. We'll see. We will see. But yes, so initial disappointment followed by, do you know what, it's not that bad. And I've been scraping the old underseal out. Now, this isn't actually the reason why I was going to be working in here. Main reason for working here was to get the underdash panel off so I could see what was actually going on under here. There's all sorts of extra fuses and wiring. I don't know what all this shit is. We're going to have to take all the extra stuff out. It may well have had a, because there's a microphone here, a car telephone at some point in its past. There's all manner of speaker wiring going. There's a speaker wiring here, appears to go into the back door. Not entirely sure I understand why, because there's no speaker in the back door. Nope. Nope, there isn't. So I don't know about that. Right, got it more or less now cleaned all of the seam seal off at the top edge there. There is, most of the damage is on this piece here. And I reckon if I was clever about this, I'd just chop it down here and replace the lion's share of it, because that's mostly, you do that, you actually see what's going on then. There we are. Mostly in that sort of area there, and then of course we've got a hole here. The rest of the floor though, as I said before, is in good order. Now what I am going to do, because wherever I'm scraping seam sealer off, I'm finding bare steel underneath it, and I fully expect there to be bare steel underneath this as well. So I'm actually going to take this piece of very, very, very old sound deadening off. It doesn't put up much of a fight, I'll be honest. You can use a chisel, just to get under the edge of it. I find that one of these wallpaper scrapers is the best way to do it. And you can see there, and look at that, no paint underneath it. And I know I just went at it, but you have to tell me where you can see the paint underneath here. So if we give this thing a fighting chance, and this thing at the moment, all of this area up here is savable, and all we've really lost is one piece. Even the inside of the A post is savable. Everything is really very clean on this. So yes, I'm going to take that piece of sound deadening off, get the radio on while I do that, and then I need to get the radio out of this, which is probably why all this shit cabling and everything's in here. I don't know. I need to look at the back of the radio first and foremost to find out if he's got the original wiring in there, and then work out what on earth is going on up here with this lot. I think this lot, I don't know, I really don't know. Is that the cartridge there for the air suspension? No, for the cruise control. I think that's the wiring for the cruise control. That is the wiring for the cruise control, which is not fitted. Got the buttons on the steering wheel, and I've got all the bits and bobs in here, but the customer's got no interest in that. Now, what's that down there? That's obviously the ignition switch, and then you've got the other column controls. There's some spurious cabling in here. I don't know what the red wire does. I've got no idea what the red wire does. We're going to find out some of this stuff. Red wire goes in there, possibly onto the back of the switch here. It's possible this thing had some sort of an alarm fitted at some point, and then we've got weird things like that. So things like that, they're never fun. They are frequently there though. Now what's interesting is there is, yeah, half the relays are not actually fitted onto the relay panel. I don't know, really don't know. Yeah, we'll get it done. It's really not going to be a problem. It's almost like this lot here has been spliced at some point. Again, I'm not digging into that. It looks like what's happened is the ignition switch wiring is gone, which is why none of this is fixed in properly. And then they've not been able to buy one with the original connector, so they've chopped off the original connector and put it onto this wiring. Nothing wrong with that. I've seen it done a few times. We probably need to find out what's going on with the screws in here, because there should be a metal bar that goes across inside there, and the machine screw holds it all together. Passenger seat is out now. Why is the passenger seat out, Richard? Well, the runners are rusty. The customer have mentioned rusty runners, and we're going to get those sorted out. I don't know why the runners are rusty. I've never seen rusty runners in a car. It does kind of lead me to think that something odd has been going on, but I don't think the car's been submerged. I just think the seat may have been stored outside somewhere. So down here, it's not beautiful, is it? I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? Really not beautiful. So I'm going to give it a clean up. We'll see what we can do. Oh, Spanish number plates in there. Right, while I was underneath here though, I thought I'd get all the air suspension loom and everything out. I've also found a loom for a CD multi-changer, which was actually located underneath the passenger seat here, right hand seat. Trying to work out what all this spurious cabling is. It's all over the car. The speaker wire that went through to that door wasn't even connected. So I really don't know. I think it's just decades of people wiring in different things, bits and bobs. It's all coming out. It's the easiest way. Just go back to factory. Now, unfortunately, someone, when they've been in here, has torn this carpet. So I think we can get around that with a bit of tape on the back of it. They've not realised that that needs to come out first in order to lift the carpet up, I expect. And I want to lift the carpet up on this side so I can repeat the floor checks and treatment that I've done on the other side. It just makes sense, doesn't it? Right, so nothing particularly to watch here. I just want to get the EAS loom out because that's going to be useful to me, and I'll buy that off the customer. And then silly things like all of the fixings are missing for the that hold the ECU together. Just everything. Nothing is easy on this. It's just decades of ham-fisted gibbonry, I think, but we're getting there now. Happy enough with it. At least all the windows are working now. We've got a slightly bigger problem on this side, folks, as is unpredictable. Oh, and this is absolutely swimming. That is not a small amount of water on that. So this has been leaking for some time. I'm not quite sure where the water's got in. The bung is missing. There's the bung there. I don't understand where the water's coming in though. I think once it's all cleaned up, it's going to look better than this. It's not rotted in the usual places. So I can only think it's coming in past the door seal. So perhaps this door seal is screwed as well. Or perhaps the heater motor's leaking. I don't know. What's the door seal actually look like? No, it's all attached. I don't know. I mean, that's gopping. That needs to seriously dry out. Let's go and bring it over here. It's out of the way. These two can go in the container. Only because the container heats up during the day. But I'd imagine we're going to get a small piece of welding on this side as well, unfortunately. But still pretty bloody good. Still pretty bloody good. Nice little bit of on top of the ECU. Someone's been drilling something, not me. Right, and I've also been pulling out chunks of wiring. It's difficult to know what is going on where, to be honest. I've pulled out a fair amount. I found this big long red wire that goes right to the back of the car. There's a red wire that goes over there. I'm not sure. I think we need to fix some stuff in here. There's all of this. Orange, purple, black and orange, and purple and orange. I think these are all speaker wires that have been chopped off. Okay, and all of the radio wiring, so I've taken the radio out now as well. Let's just push that too for a second. All of the radio wiring that I pulled out had been butchered as well. So there's the radio wiring. Right, that needs to come back to standard. Now I know I put the centre console back in, but it's probably going to come out again. It can stay in there for now. Now the main reason for taking all of this lot out on this side was because I wanted to put the ABS light back in, plug a modulator in here, and see if we couldn't get some error codes read off the system. Right, let's get underneath this thing and see where we are. So, oh my goodness, I know we've got the flickering light, folks, I can't help that. Right, now, so got a lot of rust around the anti-roll bar mounting there. probably just need really, so I'm going to drop these 4 bolts here. You can't really see, folks. I'm going to drop these 4 bolts here on both sides. Anti-roll bar will swing down. I should be able then to get a decent indication as to what the issues might be with that anti-roll bar. I can see the new steering ball joints have gone on here. They might need to come off in order to get the anti-roll bar out. Another couple of observations while I'm under here. These should have clips holding them in, and they haven't. So if I go to here, there's nothing holding the brake lining into the inner wing, which isn't ideal, is it? And then when it comes to play on the bushing doesn't look too bad, actually. Doesn't look bad at all. Right, so I took off the end of the hockey stick here, polybush. Cleaned up all of the bushes around the front end here, polybush. I think it's been polybushed. Certainly the front end's been polybushed. I'll check the back end when it comes up and off the ground, but that saves me a shitload of time. Now, the customer was reporting about some odd handling characteristics. I'm going to go through, just check things like swivel end float and so forth. Odds and sods like that. Just basic stuff. I have taken both shock absorbers off. They do look to be like nice coney dampers, which is always encouraging. However, we might have found a root cause here. What I'll do is I will mount the end of one damper into the vise and pull it out and push it back in, and you can feel the clonk, yeah? You hear it? Clonk. All the way through its travel. That's fast. That is one dead damper. This one, beautiful. Nothing wrong with this one at all. So one dead damper, one fuck damper. Looking at the state of the rubbers on these, they've been on there a while. I generally find it doesn't really matter what dampers you put on the front of a Range Rover Classic. It's a very heavy vehicle. It has an awful lot of weight to damp. And so I generally find they last about 20 to 30,000 miles. And then they start to get a bit rogue. And one of those, as you can see, is completely dead. So, right, next. So I've taken the anti-roll bar off and checked the joints, lubed them up, put it back on again. No real issues with the anti-roll bar. It would appear that whoever polybushed this actually did a reasonable amount of servicing work on the front suspension at least. I've not looked at the back yet. So the only real issue I've got is with the shock absorbers. So while I'm waiting for bits to arrive so I can get the front end of this car back on, oh, and the brakes of course, the brake flexi lines wobbling around like a dick in a bucket, and I thought, well, let's get back onto the car. So you will be familiar with this. If you've got a Range Rover, probably, or an Allegro or a Marina, you'll be familiar with that. And there's one that was not as bad, but it's still not acceptable. That was just as bad. I'm going to show you how to fix that because I figured it out. Now, before you start kettles on, before you start digging into it, the first thing you need to check is that the paddle is not split. You can see that one's split right there. If it's split, you've got a problem. However, if let's say that was split and I wanted to get that one, sorry, if that was split and I've got one of those spare, you can use one of those to replace the paddle here. It's the same. So what I'll do is because I've done this one, obviously done this one, and then one thing that had happened is, I don't know what I've done with the key. The key's not in there. There's the key. Right, so that rattles because there's no door seal in there yet. Now if so that's locked over there, I can see it. you very much. But this was not locked. So we need to work out why that was not locking. Unlocked, and it's still not unlocked. Now, on this age of car, for some reason, there is no alarm. So even though the body shell's 92, and I would have thought that they would have put the Land Rover alarm on this thing by this point, it's not on here at all. So that makes life slightly simpler. I have got a spare key, by the way. Rule number 1. In fact, let's execute rule number 1 and not leave the keys in the car. Don't know where I got to. Anyway, rule number 1, don't leave customers' cars in car. Otherwise, what will happen is you'll do something, lock a back door, slam the door, and the fucking car's locked, and then you'll be saying, "You twat." Right, now, there is a couple of other things that I thought about on this. This gap here, nice. This gap here, huge. That gap there, tiny. And I have looked at this back wing. This back wing is about right because it lines up with that. So what I might do is see if we can't. There is one shim. Well, that's why then. It says there is 2 shims on the bottom, 1 on the top. So we might end up taking a shim out to widen that gap, or we might just leave it and say, it's a Land Rover. But it is almost like that door is too far back. Now, in order to get to the handle on this, we need to take the door card off. I'm not going to go over about taking door cards off. While the door card's off, I'll also find out why this plunger's not working. It could just be that that is too sticky in there. It is quite heavy, the action in there, so perhaps I'll cover that off as well. But it does work. Our door cards off. Nothing particularly nasty there. What we will do before we go nuts on this, let's see what happens now with the lock mechanism. So we can see the plunger there. Does it work now? Well, it moved. No, it hasn't locked. So we need to work out why that is. It's probably going to end up all having to come apart anyway. Now, you need to take that off, and then you need to take this bar off in order to get access in there. I'm not going to take all the lock mechanism and everything out. I don't need to. That's where the central locking mechanism is. It could just be that it needs adjusting. It could be that all of the rods that go around, because there is a rod from here that goes up, I think, to that point there, and then that then pivots from this point here and goes across to here. I think that one up there is the... No, that one there's the lock. No, that one at the top one's the lock. The bottom one I can see goes to the handle. So the top rod in there goes across to a pivot point here and then down to the central locking. And if that ain't working, or it's all seized up, that'll be why we've got a problem. But we're going to start just by taking this crud off. Right, with that plate out, we can see the rod over there, which just is held in with a little clip, the little vertical rod on the back of the handle, and 2 nuts on that U-plate. And that's all that holds the handle in. So I'm going to get that out next. The lock mechanism really doesn't feel that sticky. It could just be that this down here is fucked. We'll come on to... It doesn't really have a proper click to it, and you can see it's been adjusted a long way here. Now, if you wanted to disconnect the handle, it is pretty easy. You pull that out of there, undo the 2 screws, handle comes out. And the lock mechanism is you push that little clip up there. This is the lock for the internal lock. Push this thing up here, and it's going to go in a second. I don't want it to fly, and I'm working one-handed. I probably could do with it out of the way, purely because it probably needs to come off, although it probably doesn't, because I think we've realised that the fault is actually down here, and I'll go into that. Now, these, they're only gears. There shouldn't be anything in there that's causing the problem, and that it's been extended that far means that the problem lies elsewhere. Right, let's stop fanning around. I'm going to go back to 2-handed operation. I'm going to take this clip off here to get this rod out of the way, so I can then access that rod on the silver arm at the back there, disconnect that rod, which is for the door catch, and then I can undo these 2 8mm nuts here. U-plate comes off, handle comes in from the outside, comes off from the outside. Right, there's the handle. There's the ABS. There's the central locking module. Undid these 4 screws. wiggled the bracket around so that it was inside the door, like that. Then I'm able to rotate it around and off the hook, because the hook that goes through that is up here. I've got my finger on it at the moment. You can't see it. And the idea is that even though we are disconnected, and I've disconnected that end as well, I can, in theory... Oh, there it is. Look. It's dropped down there now. Just about see the end of it. Now, I will tell you, this is fucked. We're going to take it up, because it's fucked. We've probably not got an awful lot to lose by trying to find out why it's fucked. That should have a nice out and in direct action. And in here, there's only gears and a little motor. It's a little solenoid motor. So we'll rip it apart on the bench and see what's going on. Otherwise, I need to source another one. Right, handle. Look in there. You'll see a rubber bush, a bung. That's what's caused the problem with this thing having that much loose movement in it, because I can actually move the lock out, and before it even starts to engage with that lever there, it's level. So realistically, what you need to do is get that bung out, which you do by pushing on that. But what I do, because these things are pretty much in need of a service by now, is I take the two pins out. So there's a shaft that goes through here that's splined on one end, and I think that's the splined end, and we've got like a top hat pin that goes through here, which is held on by a star washer. Star washer, dead easy. Get a bag of star washers off Amazon. You could buy like 100 of them for 99 pence or something, and then you just want some M5, I think these are M5 flat washers. We'll start by taking off the star washer here. They're going to be rusty, so what will happen is as soon as you go anywhere near it, it will concede. Now you need to push this pin out. Rusty, but it comes out, and then you lift up the white lever and it will come out with the spring. Next, we need to push this pin out. So figure out which end is the end that's got the splines on it, and then I'm just trying to find my drifts, which were on the bench not 2 minutes ago. They were briefly taken up, I'm afraid. Right, one end will be larger than the other. I think that end is larger, so we're going to try for this end, and it should start to move as soon as you start tapping it. As soon as it's started to move like that, you pull the bastard out like that. Yeah, splined on this end, which will be the top face, and then handle comes out. If you wanted to paint this thing at this point, then that's your opportunity. Next, use your plunger to push out the rubber bung. Find yourself a 5mm washer, M5 washer I should say. Push the bastard back in again. These are stainless, so it's going to stop that from rotting. Then position that back on there, tapped in. Oh look, well, it's probably a little bit far out now, isn't it? So what we might have to do is to file the washer just a tiny bit thinner, or file the head off the rubber, which will be just as easy. It only needs about 1/2 mil to come off it, not a lot at all. So this needs to come out again. So let's take this out again. That is out, and it's not going to be an exact science, folks, but it's going to be better than a kick in the face. And ears popped again. Sorry, sniffing. People that say, Richard, you're sniffing. Yes, my ear keeps popping. Right, now that's done that. That can go back in there. Let's hold it roughly in place. It's half the distance, so just need to go just a tiny bit more. It's close. So probably just need, I mean, I could have filed the washer, but it's a lot easier to file the rubber. Right, that goes on there. That goes on there. One of these ends is bigger than the other. That end's bigger. It's all right. Right, now let's tap that down. Good. This needs to go back on. Pin needs to go in with a bit of glue on it. And a 4mm style washer. And then all I do here, bring you over to the vise. There's my coffee there. Got tired of been chatting for half an hour. So put that on there like that. And I've got a big socket somewhere, which I was just using not 2 minutes ago. What I want is a socket that's going to fit within the cup, but over the shaft. Position that on the end of the vise. Put socket on the top, push down, star washer in place. Fixed. With me? Dead easy. Right, there's been a few distractions around the workshop, but we have got there at last, and this has gone back in now. So that looks a million times better. And it's just the sake of, I don't know, probably about an hour's work to get the whole thing apart and put back together again. Now, I still need to sort out the central locking, which is the next job on my list. That didn't shut very nicely.